Hey, what's going on, guys? OJ back here with another video, and today we're going to be talking about a bunch of the fights that have been announced or canceled throughout this week. Now, I know Conor McGregor decided to get his nudes leaked by Azealia Banks, but there were actually some other announcements that the UFC and journalists outside of the UFC decide to post. And I'm just going to react to them because there are either fight announcements that unfortunately got canceled or they're like fight announcements that involve like a fighter that I like. Overall, I wish there was more to talk about, but again, the highlight of this week was Conor McGregor's nudes. So I guess I can't complain considering that literally gave me content for 2 days straight. But yeah, without wasting any more time, let's jump right into the video. All right, now the first announcement I want to talk about by Burt MMA, Movsar Evloev pulled out of his fight with Aaron Pico. If you guys don't know, Movsar Evloev was supposed to fight the Bellator debutant in Aaron Pico next weekend at UFC Abu Dhabi. And initially, I did say that this fight was bullshit. Like Aaron Pico literally making his debut is getting a title elimination bout, and how he wasn't even like a Bellator champion or anything like that. And also the fact that Movsar Evloev, should be getting the next title shot, even though I don't really want it. All right, but again, Movsar Evloev, you're not doing yourself any favors. Like he's not exactly a pullout merchant, I'll say, but Movsar Evloev has pulled out of a couple of fights. We'll look through Movsar Evloev's record over here. All right. Now it's not all his fault. Like Aljamain Sterling, pulled out Aljamain Sterling was the one who pulled out due to an injury for UFC 307. And then Bryce Mitchell over here. I believe Mitchell hurt his back. I'm not exactly too sure when this pullout took place, but again, Bryce Mitchell pulled out of that fight. But again, Movsar Evloev not exactly doing himself that many favors. In the previous Mitchell booking, Evloev got injured against Ilya Taporia. Evloev withdrew, and then Nate Landwehr, Evloev tested positive for COVID. All right. Now, I'm not gonna say that these excuses or whatever are not valid, but if someone who's like just recently starting to watch Movsar Evloev calls him a pullout merchant and all that crap, and especially because the UFC doesn't like him, like you know, it it's not exactly looking too good for Movsar Evloev here. Like unless this fight gets rebooked, which I've heard that this is gonna be rebooked for 319. Movsar Evloev, I don't know when he's gonna get a title shot. The UFC might give him like the entire featherweight roster to run over again before like going against like fucking Alexander Volkanovski when he's 40 years old. All right, and Movsar Evloev, I don't know. It's just not looking good for him. So hopefully this fight does get rebooked for UFC 319. But if it doesn't, it's getting harder to justify for a Movsar Evloev title shot. Not that I really wanted it in the first place, I always call Movsar Evloev a pedo and all that stuff. But yeah, it's not looking too good for Movsar Evloev and his fans. All right, now next up, we're gonna be talking about Sam Patterson. He's fighting Trey Waters here. Now, I have no idea why this was booked. I feel like Sam Patterson deserves a jump up in competition. Like he last fought Danny Barlow, and I think Danny Barlow is like at the level maybe slightly better than the Trey Waters, and Sam Patterson destroyed him in the first round. Like I don't think Trey Waters is all that good, and I'm surprised that the UFC decided to book Sam Patterson with Trey Waters of all contenders. Because again, Sam Patterson is coming off like wild finishes. So I'm surprised that the UFC didn't give him a jump up in competition. I was expecting someone like maybe a Neil Magny type of matchup. Like I know Neil Magny's booked soon, so we can't do that. Who would I book Sam Patterson against ideally? I'm trying to think. Who hasn't recently fought that's like pretty high up in the welterweight like standings? Hmm. Like maybe Renat? I don't know. I just wouldn't book him against Trey Waters because I think Trey Waters is a little bit lower level competition compared to Sam Patterson's last opponent in Danny Barlow. So I'm gonna say that Sam Patterson's probably gonna win this by like what, second round sub at least, maybe in the first round, because Trey Waters, it's not like his grappling defense is all that good, but he can keep it at range, and he is very tricky on the feet. So maybe if Sam Patterson doesn't decide to grapple, this can be a little bit of a boring fight where Trey Waters is able to output him a little bit. But Sam Patterson should be able to win this fight because I just think he's a much better mixed martial artist, especially at this point in their career. All right, now up next we got our Korean Superboy, Choi. He's taking on Daniel Santos, I believe. I'm not gonna lie. Once again, why is the UFC booking these fights? Choi's literally coming off a win against Nate Landwehr, where he destroyed him for 3 rounds straight. And Daniel Santos, I know he beat Jung Young Lee, all right? And I'm kind of salty about that even to this day. But Choi is much better than Jung Young Lee. So I'm gonna pick Choi to win. I think he's the much crispier boxer. Like maybe he gasses out in the later rounds, but Daniel Santos isn't a guy that like pushes the pace in the later rounds. He isn't a guy that like, if anything, he's actually worse as the fight progresses because he fights in a way where it's like you got to keep pressuring against where he tries to keep pressuring against you, especially because he's like 5'6" in the featherweight division. And it's not like Daniel Santos has this superb ground game, and Duo Choi's ground game's pretty good. So I wouldn't be surprised if Duo Choi's the one initiating the grappling and the jiu-jitsu and the wrestling. So overall, I'm gonna say that Duo Choi, similar to what happened against Nate Landwehr, he's gonna pick his shots. I know Daniel Santos, he's pretty hard to knock out, and Duo Choi isn't the guy with the most power in his shots, but he's very crispy. And I think Duo Choi's overall the more technical fighter. So I'm gonna pick Duo Choi to win this fight 30-27 dominantly. And yeah, this might age poorly. Maybe Daniel Santos can catch Duo Choi. Duo Choi doesn't exactly have the best chin, but I just think that Duo Choi is much better than Daniel Santos. Is this cope? Probably, but until this fight happens, I'm just gonna say that Duo Choi should win this fight. And last but not least, we got Alex Perez versus Steve Erceg. Now they were scheduled to fight in the Apex in the sometime in August, and unfortunately, Alex Perez has decided to pull out. This was actually an approachable matchup for Steve Erceg. I don't know who the UFC is gonna bring in order to give Steve Erceg a decent fight because Steve Erceg's kind of in an awkward spot because he's coming off 3 losses in a row. Now, not against bad competition exactly. Like he lost to Pantoja, he lost to Kai Kara France, and he lost to Brandon Moreno. I rate uh Alexander Pantoja and Brandon Moreno very highly. And Kai Kara France isn't as bad as I said like during International Fight Week. I think I don't know, Steve Erceg, this was an actual approachable matchup for him. And unfortunately, Alex Perez, once again, he's just pulling out due to injuries left and right. And it's going to be tough to find a replaceable opponent for Steve Erceg because if you give this guy someone who's like very dangerous, I can see Steve Erceg kind of just pitter pattering his shots, trying to avoid the fight, and just looking technical and cool, but not really landing anything devastating. And especially because this is gonna be short notice, I'm actually concerned as to how this fight's gonna be rebooked. Like, and who do you even give him within the rankings? Like, I'm not exactly sure we should give him any like unranked contenders. I think who's like unranked that's free right now? Like a Jose Ochoa, maybe he's looking for a fight, and I wouldn't mind that, but I think that's a little bit too soon for a guy like Jose Ochoa. And I think outside of the top 10, I believe Steve Erceg can comfortably outclass. But yeah, I don't know. It's very hard to match Steve Erceg at this point because we're not really in position to give him anyone who should be higher ranked in the first place. I know Alex Perez is technically higher ranked, but this was the original fight that was supposed to be booked, and both guys were coming off losses. I believe the rest of the guys in the top 7 or 8, like, yeah, I think most of them are coming off wins. and it just doesn't make sense for Steve Ercik to fight those guys. So I'm curious to see who Steve Ercik's gonna fight, but it kind of sucks because this was actually an approachable fight for both of these guys, and I do like both of these guys. I think Alex Perez, I know he pulls out left and right, but I think he's been done a little bit dirty. You know, I remember he was supposed to fight Tagir Ulanbekov, but then at the last moment he was supposed to fight Tatsuro Taira. Two completely different stylistic matchups where like Tatsuro Taira is just like a nightmarish grappler that will ragdoll nearly anybody, unless you're Brandon Royval or Alexander Pantoja. And whereas fucking Tagir Ulanbekov, yes, his grappling's good, but not as good as Tatsuro Taira's. And I think Alex Perez was probably gonna win that fight by like a close decision using his striking. But yeah, regardless, I think Alex Perez has done a little bit dirty, and Steve Ercik, I think he's been given a little bit too much privilege. As much as I do like him, again, it's kind of tough to really match him when he's lost 3 fights in a row, and he's fought like only fighters that are like above him in the rankings. So I'm gonna be interested to see who Steve Ercik's gonna fight at August 9th. Maybe they might cancel this main event, but who knows? Hopefully the UFC actually puts on a decent fight because I don't know, that August 9th Apex card is looking pretty abysmal right now. All right, that's going to be it for today's video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about all these matchups and fight cancellations. I'm honestly kind of bummed out about the fight cancels, of course. And as for the matchups themselves, I wish the UFC could have made better matchups, but I'm just glad that certain fighters like Duo Choi gets to fight again because it's been a while since any news about Duo Choi, and I thought he was gonna make a headline after literally ragdolling Nate Landwehr for 3 rounds straight. But yeah, make sure to like and subscribe, and until tomorrow, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.